In this tutorial, we're going to animate our first intro scene. So in order to do the animation, we're going to need a little bit more length to our timeline. So I'm going to go to frame 30. For all layers, I'll just select those layers, right-click, and choose Insert Frame. That way, we're just extending out our animations a little bit more. Now, when we animate things, it's nice to kind of stagger things a little bit, but we can start with each layer and just kind of animate them separately. You can use either motion tweens or classic tweens. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and use a motion tween on my title of the game here, and I'm going to have it so that after it comes in, it will it kind of like fade in and zoom up a little bit at the same time. So I'm just going to move them around just a little bit. Really didn't mean to move that actually, now that I think about it. I'm going to scale them up a little bit. There we go. Just scale them up just a little bit, and then I'm going to scale them back from the beginning. And now at the place where I want them to stop, I'm going to go to my properties and click on him, go to the alpha setting and take it back and then take it forward, then go back to the beginning, and for the same alpha setting, I'm going to take it back to 0. So you'll see he kind of comes up a little bit. Now we could do some easing here. And that works pretty well, the easing 100. And so now we've got at least the title coming in. Now we can move the title back if we want so that it waits until later to come in while we have other guys come in. So we can move the player in possibly, so we'll do a motion tween. And this motion tween will be the player coming in to where he currently is. So I'm just going to nudge him back. Oops, I accidentally had both layers selected. So just him selected. I'm going to kind of nudge him forward and nudge him back, and then go back to the first keyframe and then move him way off to the left. That way, he's going to be animating in. And we'll do the same sort of thing where we give him a little easing of 100%. That way he slows down as he gets there. And it does appear that he kind of gets into place before we really want him to. I find, honestly, with the classic tweens, I can control things even a little bit better. So I'm going to use a classic tween with this particular item, and I don't need to worry about the instance name because it's not going to be using any text on this or any code. We are going to be worried about the instance name for our start button, but that already has one, which is really good. Anyway, I'm going to use the classic tween instead. So here I'll just create my next keyframe and then go back to the beginning, move that first one off the side, and then do a classic tween by right-clicking and choosing classic tween between. And now I can change my easing as well. So you can see I've got things kind of staggered a little bit as they come in. That makes things a little bit more interesting for the animation, for things to be staggered. The last thing that we might want to animate is our button. So it is a benefit for us to do a motion tween and not a classic tween with our button. And the reason why is because we don't necessarily want to have multiple instances of our button, because that's where we could have our instance names really messed up. And when we use a motion tween, there's only one place that that button has an instance name, and that's at the very first keyframe. And the rest of it is just the different ways that we use that button. So anyway, I'll nudge him just a little bit and then go back to the beginning and move him off the stage. And so you can see he animates up there. We'll give him a little bit of change as well. Now you'll notice that I've got a little bit of overhang on this animation. We can, of course, remove that by selecting those frames and removing the frames. So I'll remove the frames there. And we could also, of course, extend out the other frames to match. And you can move these anywhere you want. So maybe you want things coming in later. So that's where we might want to extend other frames out. So we'll insert the frames there. That way we want, things to kind of stagger a little bit. It's kind of interesting that way. Anyway, I'm now going to create the other layer that I need, which is my actions layer. So let's make sure that we create an actions layer and put it on the top. And on this layer, I'm going to have a keyframe at the very end that will stop the animation. So I'm going to take the first keyframe and click and drag it to the very last and use the Alt key to duplicate it so I have a keyframe there. And I'm going to go to my actions and put in stop. This way, the timeline will stop when I initially play the movie at this point, waiting for me to have some sort of interaction. So let's go ahead and save our work and test the scene just to see if it's working correctly with Control Enter. And you'll see it does indeed stop, and it's now waiting for me to actually click something. Now you'll also notice that we have our button here, and our button currently says just sample on it, and we're going to change the text as well using code. So just like we did in the tutorials for the button clips, movie clip buttons, I do have a movie clip button inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a target path for the text. And if I go to the target path tool, I want to make sure that I find the right file here. So this is the start button, which is used at the beginning here, and the label _MC, label _txt. And now I'm going to change that to .text equals go on. And let's see if that does indeed change it when I test my movie. Okay, oh, so there you go. Look at that. We had a little problem there where you'll see that at the very beginning it wasn't go on. At first it just said sample. So here's one of the problems. You'll notice that I have this keyframe here at the end where I have the start button waiting until the very end to be set that text. So what I really need to do is take the code for the start label and put it at the very beginning of the movie. So I'm going to go back to the first frame for actions and paste that code there. That way, that code for the button label is changed at the very beginning. And now I can test. Whoops, let's see. Take a look at this. Now here's another problem. Cannot access a property or method of a null object reference. So let's take a look at what's going on here. The problem is this. I've now put this code at the beginning because I really want that button to have that name from the very beginning, but I haven't had my button timeline start until here. So what I really need to do is actually duplicate this button so that I have another copy of him here. So I'm going to actually have to have another frame where I have him moved back, and then I'm going to move forward just a little bit so that I can move him back down to where he was, so that he's actually off the stage at first and then animates on. That way I can have him come in exactly where I want, but I need him initialized at the same time that the code is. Otherwise, I'm going to get that error. So now you can see that that button comes in with the code on it of go on from the very beginning. So we would like to do the exact same thing with our final scene. So make sure that you go to your end scene and do the same sort of animation. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but you're going to do some sort of animation for this stuff coming in again. And then when you're done, go ahead and save your work and go on to the next tutorial.